Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast brought to you by Briar Greaves Insurance. Check out Briar Greaves Insurance at briargreavesinsurance.com. See how they can help you with auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, business insurance, and more, or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166, and tell them that Pewter Report sent you. Happy Monday to everybody. Hope you had a great weekend as we get back into the swing of things and draft season for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Today, we're going to talk about 5 likely Bucs first-round draft targets. We've dished out a couple of names here and there, but we're going to set the record straight today, this afternoon, talk about who the Bucs might most be interested in when they are picking in the first round at number 19. So a lot to get into. Of course, roll call at 420. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Scott, how are we doing?
Doing good. The 2025 NFL Draft is inching closer, and we're getting ready for it here at Pewter Report. We are excited about the draft, as always, and we'll be coming out with our draft previews in relatively short order. As a matter of fact, this Saturday, we're coming out with our draft previews, and we'll have a single draft preview every day up until April 23rd, which is my birthday, and the day before the draft. And then we're going to be having our draft show live from the team facility again, all 3 days. That's going to be very exciting. We'll go ahead and give you all a preview here. That will be very much similar to our Pewter Report podcast. And if you've watched our draft show over the last couple of years, very similar format. It will be simulcast on YouTube, Facebook, and X, of course, on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel, as well as at Pewter Report on Facebook and X. So lots of ways that you can watch the show. We'll even have it up on the front page of pewterreport.com as well if you want to watch it from our website. And we'll see which player ends up being selected at number 19, or will that crafty Jason Light do a little trade up or trade down this year. So April 24th through the 26th, all 3 days of the draft, every single minute, wall-to-wall draft coverage like you've come to expect from Pewter Report. And we'll have all the Pewter reporters on hand to provide some analysis of those picks. And yours truly, Matt Matera and Scott Reynolds, will be your hosts for most of that. We'll do some hockey line shifts as always and get Bailey and Adam and everybody else on board as well. But we're looking forward to it. Hopefully you can join us too. So make sure you set the date on your calendars, on your phones for April 24th, which is Thursday night. It's the first night of the draft.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. I kind of call it a Pewter Report marathon because each show has its own special flavor to it, if you will. You know, the first night, it's just the first round. It's your first, full punch of like what's going on in the draft. And then, by Saturday, the third day, it's a lot of all over the place. We start kind of foreseeing what the future of this team might look like. We get a little more personal with questions and things like that. And it's always a fun time. So, please join us if you have some time on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's one of our big productions, and we're hoping for another great turnout.
Yeah, and speaking of Pewter Report TV, we would love to thank you very much for having us hit 18,000 subscribers. So thank you, Pewter people. You guys are awesome. It's been a long time coming. We're excited about being at 18,000 subscribers, but we're on the way to 19,000. And the best way you can help us do that is if you're not a subscriber to Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel, just simply hit the subscribe button. It's free. It's just a button. Just hit it. And then while you're doing that, please also hit notifications whenever we do a live Pewter Report show, whether it's an emergency podcast, a regularly scheduled podcast, or we have any video content that goes live on our Pewter Report TV channel. You guys will be notified to check it out.
That is right. Thank you, everybody, for your support of getting us to 18,000 subscribers. I remember when we were just starting this YouTube channel, and now we got Rakim Jarrett on the cover of it, as Tom says. So trying to get to that 19,000 just yet. But, we got a good show in store for today. I wouldn't be surprised if Jason Light did end up trading back. He said, I'm open to it. He said, I'm not afraid to do so. I've done so before. We saw how much the Bucs banked on having a couple of extra picks in rounds last year. Wouldn't shock me again at 19, especially. I think it was very interesting what Jason Light had to say over at the Breakers in West Palm Beach when he was like,
Mhm.
"You're expecting a couple of curveballs this year."
Yeah.
And we'll see how the early part of the draft dictates what Tampa Bay will do at 19. Because I can see two scenarios where either there's 4 or 5 guys that the Bucs still have on their board in terms of
Yeah.
first talent, first round grades, and they say, "Hey, all right, we still got a full buffet of players that we want to take. Why don't we just recoup another pick while we're at it, whether it's second or third round or whatever, and then they're
Yeah.
still find their guys." Or I can see Jason being like, "You know what? I am not a fan of anybody that's available right now. I'm going to see guys I like in the second round, or whatever the case may be." So I'm not saying that this is necessarily going to happen. Uh, More than in years past, I totally see a situation where the Bucs move back from 19. I don't think move out of the first round the way they did with Logan Hall a couple of seasons ago, but
Yeah.
we may see first round pick with a 2 next to that digit, not a 1 as in 19, but somewhere in
Yeah. I could see that. Jason Light, friend of the program, as Rolf Steinbauer says. We enjoyed having Jason on last year. We'll have him on again this year. And quick little reminder of speaking of Jason Light, we're going to get to some promos here real quick, and we'll get to the content of today's show. But we have a lot to discuss. It seems like it's been forever since we've seen you, Pewter people, but it's only been a couple short days. But in the meantime, we would love to remind you to check out our podcast with Yaya Diaby. He said a lot of insightful things. We
did.
got a lot of stories out of that. Just a great interview, an hour long with Yaya Diaby, 3-time Pewter Report podcast visitor. So make sure you check that out. It's in the archive section of our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. And let's go through what we have on tap for this week. Today's show, of course, we're going to talk about the 5 most likely Buccaneers. Will there be a surprise? We were surprised with Kalijah Kancey in 2023, so we'll see. But tomorrow's show, we're going to be taking a look at Bucs first-round draft shockers. What if the Buccaneers drafted some of these guys, right? So that's the topic for tomorrow's show. We understand not everyone's interested in the draft. Some of you Bucs fans, and we get it. You're like, listen, I'll dial into these players once they become Buccaneers, right? Once they're officially drafted, then I'll tune in to the post-draft stuff and all that. Okay, we get it. That's fine. You want some current Buccaneer talk. Well, we got it. We're going to be talking with special guest Bucs quarterback Michael Pratt. Will be joining us at 4 o'clock on Wednesday's show. He's going to be in a quarterback duel with Kyle Trask for the number 2 job. We'll get his insight into Josh Grizzard, what it was like to go through all of the draft process last year, and his experience with Green Bay. Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur up there with the Packers in the preseason because they drafted him in the 7th round, 1 spot ahead of Tampa Bay. And we'll talk about what he feels about this offense and how it's going to look with Grizzard calling the plays in 2025 and get his take on Baker Mayfield and throwing to guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So that'll be a fun show on Wednesday. Then Jason Light, we will have a press conference reaction show. Jason Light will be speaking with the media at noon on Thursday. And Adam Slavon and Matt Matera will be here Thursday to assess everything that Jason Light said and analyze it and break it down for you guys. And so we've got some can't miss podcasts here. And then one last thing on Friday for our Pewter Reports TV channel members, especially you Pewter Platinum and Premier members, for your Pewter Insider Show, Bucs are targeting inside linebackers. So a lot of great content coming your way here on Pewter Report TV. But we've got a lot to talk about in today's show, Matt.
Yes, we do. And we have 2 super chats from Mark Fisher that are right on the topic that we have to talk about. They are the same comment twice. So we do appreciate this super chat from you, Mark Fisher, who says, y'all have Campbell here, but SR suggested today that probably won't happen. 1, did I read that right, SR? 2, then doesn't it have to be cornerback or defensive end / linebacker?
Well, I'm not saying that they're not going to draft Jihad Campbell in the first round. But I just think that there's some factors there that make this not the easiest of connections for the Buccaneers. I know that he's very popular among the mock drafts. A lot of draft analysts are pegging him to the Buccaneers at number 19. And I understand that completely. I mean, the Buccaneers had a formal interview with him. Wouldn't be surprised at all if they have him in for an official 30 visit at all. Wouldn't be surprised. He's a good player. He fits. But there is a couple of things about him that I'm going to get to when we break down the 5 most likely Buccaneers in today's show. We're going to do that on the other side of a thing we do called Roll Call at 4:20 on Monday. So in about 7 minutes, Matt Matera is going to go on a rant today to kick things off on this Monday. I'm going to put up all your locations of where you're from. So, Mark, if you'll just hang on to that one particular comment there, I'm going to answer it when we talk about Jihad Campbell, because I did talk about that in today's Bucs mailbag, and I put that in the chat as well. So if you haven't a chance to read it, please do. And we appreciate your support of this channel with your super chat and your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, so if we're doing all the thank you to Supply and Demand. It says nice shirt, Matt. Yeah, try to mix it up. I
agree, Matt. Yeah, it is a nice shirt. Yeah.
I've worn this on the podcast before, but I was like, you know what? Let me do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Got my PR stuff in the wash right now, so I was like, oh, let me do something a little bit different.
Yeah, let's handle some business real quick, shall we? We had a couple of official 30 visitors that were been named publicly, right, for the Pewter people. So let's update the list here. So now the Buccaneers have 9 known official 30 visits. Either these players have visited the team facility or they're going to later this month. Now that we're in April, now that we're in the draft month here. So we already knew about Jaylen Walker, the wide receiver from Iowa State, Shamar Turner, the Texas A&M defensive tackle. We knew about that. Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. He was a Purdue transfer. He is one of the players that is more new on this list, if you will. Femi Oladejo, the outside linebacker from UCLA. Demetrius Knight Jr., the inside linebacker from South Carolina. Cornerback Savon Rebel Jr. from East Carolina. And there's a new name, Trey Amos, who you see pictured there, the cornerback from Ole Miss. Jacob Parrish from my alma mater at Kansas State. And Nico Reed, the cornerback from Oregon. Those are the 9 players as of right now that we know out of the 30 that this team has either brought in or will be bringing in for a pre-draft visit. So usually those players are ones that the Bucs are really interested in because they're going to get those. But as we know, in 2023, Kalijah Kancey flew under the radar. No combine interview, no official visit. And matter of fact, Kalijah Kancey didn't get visits from any team. And the Bucs picked him at 19.
Which is insane, right? Like, you look at what he's done in his 2 years with the Bucs, just to not have that much interest and still be at a first-round pick is such a surprising thing to see. And, I mean, for the benefit of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Early on that list, you can already see a lot of corners paying attention to by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, certainly, as the list grows larger, we'll see if there's more corners or if they pivot to edge or whatever the case may be. But what are they trying to tell us with all of these corners that they've met so far? Is it a smokescreen, kind of like what you talked about with Kalijah Kancey? Is this saying, hey, we're meeting with a lot of corners, but really we want an outside linebacker? Or is it, you know what? We are tired of Jamel Dean's injury history. We are tired of not taking the football away. And damn it, if that means we have to draft the corner in the first round, that is a ball hawk, then so be it. We obviously know what Todd Bowles had to say at the NFL Combine in Indy a little bit over a month ago. These top 30 visits are important. There's a lot of information that comes from it. But I guess right now it's tough to tell if this is, hey, they're serious about corner, or hey, let's throw everything to the wayside, if you will.
And there's some names we haven't heard of yet, like Jihad Campbell, Donovan Ezeiruaku, Jaylen Walker. There's some of those guys that I wouldn't be surprised, right, if they're coming for official 30 visits. But at the same time, if they've interviewed them at the Combine and you watch the tape and it's really good on all those players, you may not need to bring them in for an official 30 visit. And just so we're clear, too, we'll go back to this list here. The players that they bring in for official 30 visits are not always the first round guys, right? You see Jaylen Walker there. That's a day 2 pick. Shamar Turner, second, third round pick as well. Same with Scorton. Same with Oladejo. He's day 2. Demetrius Knight, probably day 2. Maybe he slides to the 4th round, but I think he's probably good enough to go at least the 3rd. Savon Rebel, maybe a first rounder, maybe a second rounder. Trey Amos, probably a day 2 guy. Jacob Parrish, round 3, round 4. So kind of a tweener, like maybe day 2, day 3. And then Nico Reed's a day 3 guy. And you'll see that with some of those top 30 visits, those official 30 visits, they'll have some day 3 guys in there, maybe guys that are almost fringe undrafted. And the reasoning is they want to develop a relationship with them. It's almost like a recruiting trip.
Yes.
Where they'll try to get that rapport with the area scout, with the position coach, because as we know, it is a free-for-all after the draft. It's like the second draft, but there's no selections here. This is more like free agency, where the Buccaneers, they're competing with the other 31 teams, calling these prospects, trying to get them signed to come into their camp as well. And and so the sales pitch starts in-house for some of those players, and they'll say, hey, listen, we like you as a day 3 prospect. We have you like in the 6th, 7th round. If we don't spend a draft pick on you, we're going to be calling you as an undrafted free agent. And so we've seen how this team has mined undrafted free agency. Think of Christian Izien, right? Think of Cameron Johnson, those types of players that have made the team recently, Tyreek Funderburg last year. And sometimes those 30 visits help. I don't know that any of those players were on a 30 visit, but if you see guys that are late day 3 players that come in for visits, it's really a priority undrafted free agent that they might be targeting.
Yeah, there's an Oklahoma offensive lineman last year that they brought in for a top 30 visit. I believe it was like Chris Murray or something like that. But that's just another example of someone that they would go and be like, we don't love you, but we like you. And we do want you here in Tampa Bay. And to go even further, I mean, DeMar Dotson, Cam Brate, 2 guys that were longtime starters on this team. Yeah, Adam Humphries as well. Cam Brate certainly winning a Super Bowl with the Bucs. And then, as you mentioned, Christian Izien, very important to this team at the moment. So nobody knows how to find undrafted free agents the way that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do. And that's what makes our undrafted free agent tracker so important as well when we get that going after Saturday on the draft too. So you never know who the Bucs are going to be going after.
Yep. And you never know what Matt Matera is going to say during one of his rants during a little thing we call
Roll Call. That's right. We want to know, where are you at, Pewter people? We have awesome fans all across the globe. Of course, here in Florida and the United States, but internationally as well. And one way we love interacting with everybody, seeing where people are tuning in from, we do this thing on Roll Call where one of us goes on a conversation about the Bucs. Today, that'll be me. And in the meantime, if you want to put in the chat where you are watching from, we'll throw it on the screen as well. Give a couple personal shout outs as well. So one thing I want to talk about is this Bucs brass, this Bucs front office. Obviously, the big move that they made this offseason as it pertained to bringing in new talent was the signing of Hassan Reddick. And sure, we've broken down the impact. We talked to Yaya Diaby about it, all of the important things of what he is going to bring to this team. But one thing we've talked about on this show throughout several years is the overall attention and sometimes lack of attention that the Bucs get nationally. Obviously, Tom Brady brought a lot to it, and Baker Mayfield gets a lot of ratings for this team. But there are times where the Bucs get overlooked a good amount. I mean, J.J. Watt was just tweeting before about how criminally underrated Levante David is. So when national media takes some time to give a shout out and some props to Jason Light and Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers, I want to make sure that gets highlighted as well. So there was actually an article that came out recently on Sports Illustrated. It was from a national writer, Gilberto Manzano, and he pretty much put together a list compiling the best value the best value signings and the worst value signings. And it's all good news for the Buccaneers because Hassan Reddick and his 1-year deal worth up to $14 million, most likely a $12 million deal, was on that list for the best value signings. It also included Justin Fields of the New York Jets, Najee Harris going to the Chargers, along with DJ Reed, former New York Jets signing with the Lions. But he had Hassan Reddick in there as well, saying if a messy contract dispute with the Jets, if it wasn't for that, he would have been considered a top free agent this year over guys like Josh Sweat. yes, Reddick turned 31 in September, and he's 3 years older than Sweat, but their production level could be the same in 2025. And the Buccaneers didn't need to pay Reddick $41 million the way that Josh Sweat did over in Arizona. So for really, it's the fact that it's for 1 year and $14 million. And you can read the story on pewterreport.com as well. What I felt was important is the fact that it's such a win-win for both sides, because Hassan Reddick needs the Bucs as much as the Bucs need Hassan Reddick. They want to improve with their four-man pass rush. Hassan Reddick can do that if he taps into what he did with the Eagles and, had 4 or 5 years of double-digit sacks together before it didn't work out with the New York Jets. And the fact that it's a 1-year deal and at most it's $14 million, I think it's important because if it works out and he is the player that he was on the Eagles, I mean, what a steal for this team, at least for one season. And for Reddick, he gets an opportunity, he's getting $12 million. It's a solid payday, all right? He's not getting, peanuts to come and play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's getting a nice payday of $12 million, potentially $14 million. But if he does ball out, if he does have another 12-sack season with 5 forced fumbles, he's going to get a hell of a lot more money next year. It might not be with the Bucs, but he's going to get a pretty good payday. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, Reddick financially will still be okay with $12 million. And the Bucs aren't strapped for a very long time having to deal with, dead money and void years and all these different things by taking too much of a risk with Hassan Reddick for several years. It is a risk. It's a roll of the dice, but it's not the riskiest roll of the dice that they can do. And on the other side of it, with the worst value signings this offseason, the Bucs are not on it, thank goodness, but one of their heated rivals in the NFC South is the New Orleans Saints, who are already in salary cap hell. According to this article, didn't do themselves too many favors with the signing of Chase Young for 3 years and $51 million. I mean, just ask yourself, Peter People, would you rather have Hassan Reddick for 1 year and potentially $14 million or Chase Young for 3 years and $51 million? I think I know who I would take, but it's certainly just showing the discrepancy of great front offices and pretty bad front offices.
Yeah, I'm just not impressed with Chase Young. I think he's a good player. He's not the guy that everybody thought he was going to be when he was the first overall pick out of Ohio State. He's not the predator,
Mm-hmm.
He's just not him. I mean, he's an okay edge rusher, but I mean, he's not as good as Trey Hendrickson was in New Orleans. He's not as good as Cam Hayward was in his prime. Cam Jordan. He's better than Marcus Davenport. He's better than Patrick Turner, some of their other guys, but I like when average players are on the Saints.
Yeah,
I would call him above average. He's above average. I don't want to slight him that much, but I mean, who would you rather have, Yaya Diaby or Chase Young? I'd rather have Yaya Diaby.
It's Yaya all day long, and not just because he was on the show on Thursday.
Correct. Yeah, friend of the program. Yeah, I'm with you. Great comments there from everybody. Appreciate you all chiming in. Matt, while you were diligently nailing your rant, which was awesome. As Nathan Elliott says, it is Matt the Rant Matera Monday. So
thank you for your support, Nathan.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So we'll give everybody a shout out here. A lot of Florida reps today. A lot of people from the Sunshine State. And Tommy Leverone was one of those from Temple Terrace. We got Sean Wallace from Pensacola, Florida, baby. We've got, let's see, Frank the Tank Hall from Pine Hills, Orlando, Florida. Andy Matthews is hanging with the mermaids in Weeki Wachee. That's cool. That's definitely cool. And you and I were, well, actually, here we go. Let's do Tony from Largo. We appreciate that as always. And then we were in the Bahamas, not Nassau, but we were in the Bahamas just a couple of weeks ago on the Bucs cruise. Mm-hmm. And Jacko Bluntly is making all of us feel pretty jealous right now. He's in Nassau, Bahamas. And then we've got, let's see, I can get this to come on here. There we go. Aaron delivering packages all over Palmetto and Ellington. So we have another Florida person in the house and a couple of people out west. Josh Lewis, Tucson, Arizona fan since 1996.
Nice.
Tyler Lavelle, who is a Pewter Report TV channel member, Williston, North Dakota, and Joseph, Southern California, as well as Rolf Stonbar, way out west, Los Gatos, California, Matt Rant. So we appreciate everybody chiming in.
Yeah, thanks
from
everyone.
your locations today, as we do on Mondays at 4:20. So thank you very much. And again, if you missed it earlier, thank you so much for helping us get it to 18,000 subscribers here at Pewter Report TV. That's awesome. Matt, we've got some Buccaneer players to talk about. Future Buccaneer players, possible future Buccaneer players, draft prospects, Bucs targets, whatever you want to call them. And these players kind of comprise the guys that are on the draft show list here. How convenient.
Yeah, right.
So these 5 players right here, we're going to kind of go through them in order. We're going to start with Jaylen Walker, number 11 here, the Georgia pass rusher. Matt, I'm not sure that he is going to be there at number 19. I think out of all of the 5 players we're going to list today, he might be the player that is just kind of the surefire guy that might be gone by 19, just because there's so many teams, whether it's in the division. I think all 3 teams in the division, Carolina, New Orleans, and even Atlanta could use a player like Jaylen Walker, whether he's a linebacker, whether he's an edge rusher. He's a dude, and he comes from a defense that has produced a lot of quality NFL players. Tyke Smith with the Bucs among one of them. Probably more of an edge rusher. You look at the 6.5 sacks last year, but he can play linebacker. And if you're Todd Bowles, he likes to rush his outside linebackers. He likes to drop them in coverage, man.
He does like to do that. And yes, he is listed as linebacker, but I mean, you watch his tape and you look at highlights, and a majority of the time he's lining up on the edge, going after the quarterback. And as you mentioned, 6.5 sacks, no forced fumbles though last year. And I'm never going to fully doubt a Georgia Bulldog player going into the NFL, because the track record, at least in recent years with these championship winning teams and SEC championship competing teams and all that stuff, you'd be hard pressed to doubt a Georgia Bulldog.
Yeah.
I got to say, I really like a move that Jaylen Walker has where he's on the outside, but when he cuts and stunts into the inside, I think that's super impressive when he does that. But I can't say I was like truly blown away with his tape like I was with some of the other guys that we're going to talk about today. I don't know specifically what it is. I know it's a different position than just like straight up regular middle inside linebacker. But sometimes if he wasn't just straight bull rushing, I don't know if I necessarily love the overall reaction time that he had from time to time. And if he's a ball hawk and he only has 1 forced fumble in his career, to me, that's a little surprising. So I wouldn't hate if the Bucs drafted him, but I got to say, I'm not overall in love with what I watched from him versus some of the other guys. Now, he just played in the SEC, and he's going up against the best competition, and his numbers are very respectable. It's not like they're low by any means. 6.5 sacks is pretty good. They get 11 tackles for loss last year. They're quite respectable.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's certainly not my draft crush this year. I guess I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Matt. And I think the interesting thing is if you look at a couple of Georgia players that have come out that have been first-round picks, and the guys I'm talking about, Trayvon Walker, who's a much different body type. He's a defensive end. He's a big 270 pounds, 6'4" behemoth. Jacksonville just picked up his 5th-year option. When you look at what he was able to do at Georgia, the numbers in terms of sacks really weren't that great. He was not known as a sack artist, and that's kind of why he was thought of as as a little bit of a curious pick, number 1 overall. I mean, he had 6 sacks in his final season at Georgia in 2021, and only had 9.5 in his 3 years with the Bulldogs, right? So not a ton of production there, but yet he has bloomed into a double-digit sacker at this level. Then you look at Nolan Smith, who was a first-round draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles. They traded back to get him, and he was a 4-year player at Georgia in 2022. His final year, he had 3 sacks, but he didn't have any more than 3.5 sacks as an outside linebacker. And again, kind of like Jaylen Walker, played some linebacker, also rushed off the edge, did some blitzing. So similar type of player. And again, only 3 sacks his senior year. 3.5 was his high as a junior, but he's become more of a pass rushing force in the NFL. He had 6.5 sacks last year, and then added, I think, 4 more in the postseason, and was a game wrecker against the Washington Commanders. So his production in the NFL is better than it was at Georgia. Trayvon Walker's production in the NFL better than it was at Georgia. And I think that people are kind of hoping, thinking, expecting that'll be the case with Jaylen Walker as well. The tools are there. The athleticism is there. He just needs to really get some good coaching. And if they're going to make him an edge, he needs to be a full-time edge and get those reps and get that experience. He's a little bit like a bull in a china shop right now, but you love the determination, the want to, the aggressiveness, the speed to power, the closing speed. There's a lot to work with there that's exciting. And my whole thing is, if he falls to 19, the Buccaneers, they might have to really wonder about taking him. They might have to sit there and say, wait a minute, this is a guy that, we might have as a top 10, top 12, top 15 pick. And now he's really good value at 19. So I don't know where he stacks on the Bucs board, but I'm just saying he seems like a Buccaneer type player.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit different with Walker from the Jaguars, because that was a first pick and he was able to develop into it. But I would also say with Nolan Smith, a little bit more of like some of the whole parts and everything like that. I mean, we spent shows talking about how great this Eagles defense was in their pass rush and things like this. But for Jaylen Walker as well, if the Bucs do draft him at 19, or even if they trade back and by some happenstance he's there as well, I would just hope that the Bucs commit to playing him at edge, or if they decide he's a linebacker or inside linebacker, keep him there. I don't think he fits the joker role that some teams have, other players, other teams don't have. Like, remember Isaiah Simmons coming out of Clemson was like, he could play a little bit everywhere, but it never really worked out, and that's why he left his original team and went to the Giants. We've seen how Joe Tryanchenko was supposed to be kind of a joker role on this team, and that didn't necessarily pan out either. I fully understand Todd Bowles likes lining up guys in different spots, and there's Levante David on the edge, and there's Vita Vea at linebacker. He's going to get a running start, and that's fun, and it works from time to time, but they're not doing it every single game. They're doing it 2 snaps a game maybe. And I just think with Jaylen Walker, if you want to say he's a full edge rusher, I mean, we have celebrated the fact that Larry Foote is coaching the outside linebackers. Once again, it is a pretty good spot, right? Because you have Hassan Reddick, you have the benefit of Yaya. Sure, you don't want an entire reclamation project for someone that you picked in the first round, but you can take a little bit more time than maybe you would if this was last season and you have the outside linebacker. So that's really just my concerns with the pick if the Bucs go about it.
Yeah, I mean, with Jaylen Walker, you're getting a rotational type of edge, right? Because you have Hassan Reddick, he's a starter. You have Yaya Diaby, he's a starter. You want insurance policies in case there's injuries. We know that Todd Bowles likes to rotate his edge rushers in waves. And so having another talented guy in there, it could be a safety net in case Chris Braswell just doesn't pan out, right?
Right.
So the other thing, too, is Hassan Reddick, he's signing a 1-year deal. And he'll be 31 next year. At some point in time, we saw with Shaq Barrett, like the wheels fall off the wagon. And right now, Hassan Reddick is closer to the end of his career than the beginning. And so it's not a bad thing to add another young edge rusher. You can never have enough pass rushers from the edge. Remember, this unit collectively only had 12 sacks, led by Yaya Diaby with 4.5. So if you want to have a 4-man pass rush, you need to have those edge rushers. You need to have 3-4 really good ones, right? Just in case there's injury or ineffectiveness or whatever. So why not get a guy that can learn under Hassan Reddick without the pressure of having to come in and play right away? And let's not forget what happened to Joe Tryanchenko in 2021, Matt. Jason Pierre-Paul injured his shoulder in the first or second game of the season. And JTS was starting as a first-round pick when he was thought to be, he's that developmental guy behind him. No, he was starting for JPP for several games that year and played probably more snaps than anybody thought he would. So there is that consideration. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, another guy that we're going to talk about as one of those 5 likely Buccaneers targets in the first round is Donovan Ezeiruaku.
Oh, yeah.
No surprise, we had him in our mock draft at the number 1 spot for mock draft number 3. I think everybody on the Pewter Report staff loves him. He has got long arms. There's some freaky comparisons to Hassan Reddick between Donovan Ezeiruaku and Hassan Reddick. Combine formal interview. This team seems to really like him, and there's a lot to like from a high character standpoint, from a production standpoint. It's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, right? We talked about Jaylen Walker, 5 sacks in 2023, 6.5 in 2024. Much different story for Donovan Ezeiruaku, 30 career sacks.
Yes.
He had 8.5 in 2022. It dipped down to 2. Then he kind of found his mojo again, 16.5 sacks last year, 21 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles. You talked about the ball hawk, Matt. 8 forced fumbles in his career, including 3 last year. So there is a lot to like about Donovan Ezeiruaku at number 19 for Tampa Bay.
To me, he's the player that if the Bucs are on the clock at 19 and he's there, you don't even listen to any other teams. You sprint up to that podium, or whoever gives the card to Roger Goodell. You sprint to that podium and put the pick in, because he is haunting as an edge rusher. He is the boogeyman. He is relentless, just going and going and going. And, Boston College, they were like solid last year, but they're not a powerhouse team by any means. Like, there's plenty of times where he's had to get after the quarterback in a game where, maybe the team didn't necessarily have to throw as much against Boston College, just based on kind of who they are. But he was incredible at the Senior Bowl. He's got a great arsenal of pass rushing moves. It's not just hey, I'm going to out physical you and bull rush you.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of different things. He's quick off the football. He's got the length, like you just mentioned. He takes the ball away, and 16.5 sacks. That's great in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, in college football, you're playing less games and you have more buys and things of that nature. Truly a fantastic season last year at Boston College. I'm a huge fan of Donovan Ezeiruaku, and to me, he's the guy at 19. Even with all these guys we're going to talk about, you'd be hard-pressed, regardless of Hassan Reddick and things of that nature. If you just want a straight-up pass-rushing dude that is going to pin his ears back, get after the quarterback, and do it in several different ways, and a high football IQ as well already out of the gate, to me, he's the pick.
Also a Senior Bowl guy. We know the Bucs like the Senior Bowl guys. And, there's Hassan Reddick right there with the old Temple helmet on. He's tackling O.J. Howard, who ended up being the first pick at the Senior Bowl for Tampa Bay at the 19th spot. So when you look back at Hassan Reddick coming out of Temple, right, and I kind of did a little bit of the tail of the tape here. Hassan Reddick, Jaylen Walker, and Donovan Ezeiruaku. Let's go over this really quickly here. So you've got Hassan Reddick, 6'1", 237, right? And that kind of matches up favorably with 2 Reddick-type players in Jaylen Walker at 6'1", 243, and Donovan Ezeiruaku, a little bit bigger, 6'2", 248. Then you look at the arm length, right? 32 3/4 for Reddick, 32-inch arms for Jaylen Walker, 34-inch arms for Donovan Ezeiruaku, right? He's got some pterodactyl type wingspan. Then the hands, very similar, smaller hands for Donovan Ezeiruaku, but I'd rather have longer arms than bigger hands necessarily. And then you look at the 40-yard dash time, 4.52 for Hassan Reddick. That helped him get that first round draft status in the top 15. Went to Arizona with their first round pick. Jaylen Walker, no combine or pro day testing. And this is interesting because at least Donovan Ezeiruaku did everything really but the 40-yard dash time. And I love the fact that Ezeiruaku didn't do the 40-yard dash time. If you're not going to run the 40, it means you're probably not fast, right? You're probably not going to, it's probably not going to help you, right? When you're James Pierce from Tennessee and you blaze a 4.5, whatever he did, right? And some of these other guys that did run, when you run those numbers like Yaya Diaby, when he ran a 4.51, right? That helped him, obviously.
Yeah.
But when you don't run a 40, it kind of says that's not your strength. And that's not Donovan Ezeiruaku's strength. His strength is in the quickness. It's the ability to redirect. And that's even more important for an edge rusher because you're not running 40 yards in a line. You're really taking about 3 or 4 steps and you're turning a corner, if you will. and getting to the quarterback. But look at the 3-cone drill for Hassan Reddick compared to Donovan Ezeiruaku. Ezeiruaku had him beat 6.94. Is the fastest time for any defensive lineman or edge rusher at the combine. Same with the shuttle.
Shuttle smoked him. Yeah.
Yes. The vertical lynch is very similar. 36.5 for Hassan, 35.5 for Donovan Ezeiruaku, 22 bench for Donovan, 24 bench for Hassan. The broad jump, more explosive indicator for Reddick there. That's okay. But the interesting thing is with the measurables not really being there outside of the height and the weight and the arm and the hand length, if you're Jason Light and Todd Bowles and you've got Jaylen Walker, let's say he slides there. Let's say Donovan Ezeiruaku is on the board as well. Who do you take at number 19? Do you take Walker, who might be considered the more of the consensus top 10, top 12 pick, or do you go with Ezeiruaku? It's really interesting, right? Because you've got some athletic testing that is really, really good for Ezeiruaku. You don't have that with Walker. You played at Georgia, the national championship pedigree for Walker. You don't have that at the Boston College. But then you have the production that Ezeiruaku has compared to the production. And you know what Ezeiruaku is. You know he's an edge rusher. He's a 3-4 outside linebacker. With Jaylen Walker, what is he? So this is going to be really interesting. And we'll talk about Jihad Campbell in a minute here. But what if all three are there? Jaylen Walker,
oh my goodness,
Donovan Ezeiruaku, Jihad Campbell. What if all three of those players are there? Does Jason Light run the risk and trade down, knowing that he maybe likes all three or two out of the three and hopes to get one? Or does he tell us who he thinks is best out of those three and sticks and picks at number 19?
I part of it, of course, is kind of subjective to like what team would want to trade up with the Bucs. What would they be willing to give up? Because, if one team, say there's a team that are 2 picks behind the Bucs, and they say, we'll give you a second round and a third down next year to move 2 spots. I think you go, all right, yeah, like we'll do that and kind of let the cards fall wherever they will with that draft. If you're going with just all three, to me, everything that I kind of already talked about screams Donovan Ezeiruaku between. Yeah. And that's the difference between Walker and Ezeiruaku. It's for Walker, it's kind of like the reputation of Georgia players coming out versus the guy that went out and wanted to test and did a lot of the tests and looks pretty good with Hassan Reddick, at least from those numbers and everything like that. I'm always going to root for the guy that says, you know what, I'll put my name on the line. I'll go and do these tests versus the other. And there's many prospects that do this and say, I don't need to work out in Indy. Like, I'll just do it at my pro day. It's no big deal. And I get it. Like, I get the reasons why and why not they want to go and do that. But, with all of that, in the case with Campbell, with the injury and the position where, you got Bassa there a couple of rounds later and things of that nature. To me, Knight as well. To me, the pick is still Donovan Ezeiruaku because you're setting yourself up for this season, but the future as well. And that's what makes Chris Braswell so interesting about this too. Because who knows? Chris Braswell, for all we know, could kind of have a second-year glow-up the way that Luke Goedeke did. Remember, we were not high on Luke Goedeke after his rookie year based on what he did. Now, he did move positions where Braswell's just going to continue to play outside linebacker. But for all we know, if Chris Braswell turns into the player that, you imagine when you draft these players, well, that edge rusher isn't as much of a need as it once was. Now, we won't know until the season comes up, so you're already going to have to go through the draft. But, to me, it's still Donovan Ezeiruaku, regardless of what happens to Braswell and the other 2 players that could be drafted there, too.
I'm with you, Matt, and we'll see if Todd Bowles and Jason Light feel the same way. If that scenario is what happens in the first round, and Tampa Bay's on the clock at 19, and Ezeiruaku's there with maybe some of these other guys. I go back to something Yaya Diaby said, right, where he believes Chris Braswell is going to have that kind of breakout year. Yeah, and likes how he finished the year, likes where he is right now. He's obviously a big Anthony Nelson fan too. He said Nelson kind of took him under his wing, and he's got wings, man. Anthony Nelson, 6'7". He's that steady Eddie. He's a smart player that will make, a handful of plays each season as a backup that keeps him around. This is his 3rd multi-year contract. His rookie deal, the 2-year deal that led into this one, and then another 2-year deal. So there's value there. But, if Anthony Nelson is edge rusher number 5 on this team, that's fine, right? That's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if your second line, and Yaya right now believes that there's not going to be that dip, right? With Hassan Reddick and himself in the starting lineup, and Nelly and Braswell and on that second wave, that second hockey line, if you will. There's not going to be that dip, and that's why you get a player like Donovan Ezeiruaku, just in case there's an injury, just in case Braswell is not that guy or is slower to develop or whatever, right? Or maybe Hassan Reddick isn't that guy either, right? I mean, you can't put all your eggs in this basket. And because there were 10 games out there on the field. I know the Buccaneers are writing off last year, and I know Hassan Reddick is too. And I'm going to give Hassan the benefit of the doubt. I think he's going to come back very energized and motivated this year to prove last year was a fluke. But what if it's not? What if 10 games, 1 sack is where he's at now in his 30s? We don't know. But if you draft another edge guy, it's one more guy into the hopper, and I'm all in favor of it. If Todd Bowles wants to rush 4, then by God, man, you've got to make sure you can rush 4. You've got to make sure that outside linebacker unit can get you, over 20 combined sacks between all those guys, and hopefully closer to 30. So I'm all about it. Now if Jihad Campbell is there, is that a need? Well, let's talk about Jihad Campbell, Matt. Let's go through some of the pros and cons with Jihad Campbell. Clearly the best linebacker in this draft, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the inside linebacker. 4.5 speed, big guy, physical, can cover, can blitz.
Yeah.
5 sacks last year.
117 tackles combined. Yeah. That's a lot for, again, at the college level.
Yep. He's a seek and destroy player. There's a lot to like there. The interesting thing about him right now is the injury, the torn labrum. Now, when you draft a player in the first round with the 5th-year option, you got him for 5 years, right? There's 2 schools of thought here. Number one, Super Bowl window's open. You want a player that can come in and make an impact right now. Donovan Ezeiruaku, as a wave rusher, might get 5, 6, 7 sacks, whatever. Yaya Diaby was a part-time starter, led this team with 7.5 sacks as a rookie in 2023. So, you never know. The thing with linebackers, Todd Bowles' scheme and system is intense. It's complicated. You got to be a smart player, and I think Jihad Campbell is. But Jihad Campbell, who is also a Jersey guy, kind of like Donovan Ezeiruaku, he has a torn labrum surgery recovery timetable of 6 to 8 months. The surgery happened in mid-March, so that puts him on the field at the earliest, probably September, which means he missed rookie minicamp, OTAs, training camp, preseason, etc. And you're not going to be able to learn this defense with mental reps on the sidelines. You got to be on the field. So does this make his rookie year a wash? No, because he'll be on the field at some point. Now, if it's 7 months, Matt, then that pushes him on the field in October. If it's 8-month recovery, then he's not seeing the field till November, and his rookie season's just about a wash. So does a team like the Buccaneers, do they want to take a risk and draft a player in the first round that truly might not make an impact for them as a rookie outside of providing some depth? Because this is going to be Servassier Dennis's team and Levante David's team at the linebacker position, without Campbell being in the mix from a competition standpoint throughout the whole offseason and training camp. Now, the flip side of that is, and let me get your thoughts on this, you need a linebacker to pair with Servassier Dennis. Levante David, probably in his last year, not going to play forever. So if anything, you're getting him in. He learns the system, learns the scheme, learns his teammates, will practice with the team during the season, obviously. Maybe see some on-field time at some point once he gets caught up. But then you essentially have your 2 linebackers, Dennis and Campbell, moving forward. What say you?
That's what makes it tough, right? Because there's several avenues with it. Like, take, for example, Ezeiruaku we were just talking about. If the Bucs drafted Donovan Ezeiruaku, but he's still behind Yaya and Hassan Reddick and maybe even Chris Braswell, but we'll just say the 2 starters for now, that's a guy you drafted in the first round that isn't playing right away. He'll get
Yeah.
some snaps each game and some pass rushing opportunities, but he's a guy that's not starting the way that like Graham Barton did.
Yeah.
You're kind of
Right.
doing that with Jihad Campbell, though, at the same time. If you do draft him, yes, you have Levante and you have Servassier Dennis, and then you're sort of redshirting him, but not exactly, depending on how quickly
Yeah.
he can come back. You're kind of doing that with several positions on defense with the Bucs, regardless of if it's inside linebacker or edge rusher, or maybe even corner, depending on who they go with. And I know we'll talk about a corner in just a little bit. So if you truly feel like you have your starting inside linebacker of the future, it may be worth the risk. I'm not necessarily saying the Bucs should do it, but if you believe that he's your next starter for the following season and the next 4 or 5 years, depending on how it goes, well, you're still pretty thin at inside linebacker, right?
That's right.
Like Anthony Walker Jr., nice speed.
Short-term fix, right?
Short-term fix as well.
Same with Deion Jones.
Yeah, same thing with Deion Jones. Now, the other aspect of it is, like we talked about, Jeffrey Bassa, Demetrius Knight. Like, there are some other options at inside linebacker later on where maybe you could even double up on linebacker later.
Yeah, Nicholas
still
Martin.
Get an impact player early on at edge or corner. Another aspect in all of this that I don't think we talk about a ton, but let's remember Kalijah Cansey. Like, yes, he was there for OTAs and a little bit of minicamp, but his calf injury happened like the first or second day of training camp.
Yeah.
Like, Kalijah Cansey had basically no practice in pads with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers his rookie year, then started playing after a month and was a big-time impact player. Then we all know what he did last season, leading the team with 7.5 sacks. And a different position for sure. But if Kalijah Cansey was able to do that as a rookie, no preseason games, no physical contact in training camp, and then did what he did, it's not impossible for another player to do that. Now, again, patience runs short. You want a guy that's ready to go. I don't always love drafting the injured guy. There's a lot more examples of players that don't work out, at least immediately, because they got sidelined early on. I mean, even Servassier Dennis is kind of his own example of injuries, just sidelining a guy for sure and derailing his development a little bit. I love the football IQ that he has, the anticipation. We just talked about the tackles, the way he can read the game the way that Jaylen Walker doesn't. And again, different positions a little bit. He's got a lot of things. Again, how he attacks a play, I really enjoy. But if he's not going to be ready for a little while, it's certainly a scary thing to consider with all of that involved.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot to consider, and I think the other thing too about Jihad Campbell is he may not be there at 19 because he is the top linebacker, probably the only linebacker that will get drafted in the first round. And there's some teams I could see Dallas or the Colts, ahead of Tampa Bay, just taking even the Saints, right? They need somebody to eventually replace Demario Davis, and you have Demario Davis under contract. Jihad Campbell could kind of be his heir apparent, if you will, without the pressure of having to come in and play right away. So, that's that's a possibility too, that Jihad Campbell, like Jaylen Walker, may not be there. I think out of the three guys we talked about so far, Donovan Ezeiruaku might stand the best opportunity or have the best chance of being there, So, there is that to consider too, are these guys going to be there? But if they are, that would certainly make for one heck of a conversation. Just kind of like the conversation about who's going to win tonight, right? In terms of tonight's national championship game between the Houston Cougars. Boy, what a choke job by Duke. Holy
that
smokes.
Was wild.
If you're a Dookie out there, I'm sorry, man, but that was an absolute choke job. And I'm going to be rooting for the Houston Cougars tonight. They're a Big 12 team, so I'm going to stick with my conference. And we'll see about the Florida Gators. Wouldn't be surprised if either team won. I think it's going to be a great game. And, of course, the place to go to watch it is Walk On Sports Bistro. 3 Tampa Bay area locations as Slam Dunk Madness finalizes itself tonight with the national championship games. You can watch hoops, dunk apps, and you can enjoy it all night long. 3 Tampa Bay area locations to serve you: Wesley Chapel, Midtown Tampa, and Lakeland. Remember, it's Monday, and that means you have happy hour from 3 p.m. to close every single Monday. And, of course, don't forget happy hour all day on Tuesday, open to close, including $5 Tito's. So make sure you watch tonight's game, Houston and Florida, at Walk-Ons, and you won't regret it because there's plenty of TVs and fantastic food and drink specials all the way through till the end of the game tonight, because that's how they do it at Walk-Ons. Happy hour 3 to close.
Should be a good game. I'm sure we have some Gators fans watching as well. So good luck to all of you rooting for Florida.
Let's stick in the SEC a little bit here, not Florida, but Georgia. We had this guy, Malachi Starks, in our latest mock draft. Won't spend too much time on him per se. You see him there with Tyke Smith. The Buccaneers do need some help in the secondary, right? If Tyke Smith stays at nickel, well, they need a safety to replace Jordan Whitehead. If Tyke moves to safety to replace Jordan Whitehead, well, they need a starting nickel. Malachi Starks can do either one. Mm-hmm. And so having these two guys, Smith and Starks, who played together, that helps Todd Bowles because you're drafting an impact player in the first round, a guy that will see the field at least 75% of the time if he's a nickel, probably 100% of the time if he is the starting strong safety. He is a ball hawk. He is fast. He's athletic. He's kind of a safe pick too. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I would take him over Donovan Ezeiruaku, Matt, but your thoughts?
Yeah, I probably would rank him second or third in terms of my interest out of these five of the Bucs taking. Certainly the chemistry with Tyke Smith, which I've talked about before. But as much as I don't like the Joker idea of like Jaylen Walker, the Georgia Bulldog with the Bucs, this Georgia Bulldog, I love the versatility. And you can use that more, of course, with a defensive back than you can a hybrid edge rusher, inside linebacker. So I like that he can cover tight ends and he welcomes it. He's not afraid to. I like the athleticism. Of course, ball hawks, that's been the buzzword this entire offseason from Todd Bowles. I think there's a lot to like about Malachi Starks. And, there's no such thing as a sure thing in the NFL, but I agree with you in terms of like, it feels like a safe pick of like, you can't go wrong if you go with him. Maybe somebody could have a little bit more potential and maybe more of an impact, but he's a guy that you can kind of just plug and play and not really have to worry about him a ton like you would with other rookies.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Sir Derek McDowell. We'll get to some of these super chats here in just a second, but would like for them to draft Nick Emanwari, the safety from South Carolina. To my knowledge, they have not really been interested in Emanwari. They did not interview him at the combine. He's a bigger dude, think like Cam Chancellor, right? John Lynch type. And if you look at the safeties under Todd Bowles, Jordan Whitehead, Antoine Winfield Jr., Christian Izien, Tyke Smith, we're talking like 5'9", 5'10", 200-pound guys that have the agility, the hip flipping ability to cover a slot receiver, to cover a tight end. And I think with a long-legged guy like Emanwari, he's an exciting athlete. He's more like a Harrison Smith type, and I just don't think that's Todd Bowles' his forte at safety. I mean, you think there was the Keanu Neal experiment, right, where he was a bigger safety, but other than that, his safeties have been more of the Winfield type, the Tyke Smith type. So I don't see Emanwari being a fit for Todd Bowles' system. We'll talk about our last guy in a second here, but let's get some of these super chats, man.
Yeah, let's start it off, and thank you everybody for patiently waiting with these super chats. We'll start with LDBC's Most Wanted. Thanks for the $4.99. Says, saludos. Any update on a Luke Gedeke extension? I feel like his development has earned him one. Same with Zion.
Not yet. I wonder if the Buccaneers have done some salary cap management this offseason. They've restructured a couple deals. And if you're going to restructure some of these deals, maybe that's to give players like Luke Gedeke, K-Dot, and Zion McCollum, three guys that are probably on deck for a contract extension, a little bit of a bump this year. So you don't have to sit there and keep their cap value small and then have these huge spikes down the road where, Gedeke's probably going to be making $20 million or so. So, you can kind of take on some of that this year. I'm not sure what his cap number is. I can look it up in a second, but let's say it's a couple $1 million. Maybe you increase his base to $5 million this year, and you take like $3 million and tack it onto this year. So it's not $20 million next year; it's $17 million, right? So you're kind of borrowing from the future and stuffing it into today with some of the cap room that's been created. The Buccaneers can also use some of this cap room to sign other players, sign their draft picks, have some space available for off the street emergency signings, right? Their practice squad, etc. But they can also use it for some extensions as well. So we'll see what happens. Wouldn't be surprised if an extension for Gedeke and Kate Otten get done. Maybe Zion McCollum later on in the spring and the summer.
I do agree with LDBCs that Gedeke certainly has earned a contract extension, and having two just fantastic offensive tackles is a luxury that not many other teams have. Thanks to Jamie Miles for this $5 super chat. If the Bucs draft Ezeiruaku or another edge in the first, wouldn't he be in the same situation as Joe Tryanchenko was in 2021? That's why I support Jihad Campbell.
Well, the other thing, too, that you have to consider is when you have a player like Hassan Reddick, who is the exact same body style. We had the graphic up earlier. Same size, same measurables, same type of player. Boy, you are giving a player like Donovan Ezeiruaku the prototype to look at. It's basically like Larry Foote's like, I'm going to coach you, but watch that guy, right? Watch Hassan Reddick. Do what he does. And it's so great to have that type of in-house model to look after. Think of like how Logan Hall gravitates and gravitated towards Will Golston, right? Long, 6'6", big defensive tackle, right? Logan Hall can't look at Kalijah Cansey and model his game after Cansey, right? 6 foot, 285 pounds. Nor can he do that with Vita Vea. But it's good to have that type of player that has to deal with issues like long legs, where you have to really, play with a lower base, bend your knees, et cetera, right? Mm-hmm. And to have that player in-house is so valuable. So having another guy like that, plus the other thing too is, what if Hassan Reddick blows up and wants $20 million next year?
Yeah, well, he's gone from Tampa.
Right. And then you have his replacement already in-house, has learned from him, knows the system, has already produced for Todd Bowles. He's a much cheaper option, and you got him for 4 more years on a rookie contract. So you talk about future salary cap management. Mm-hmm. There's that to consider too.
Right. And I get it didn't work. There is a little similarity to the JTS and JPP type of thing. No doubt about it. But because it didn't work with Joe Tryanchenko, I don't think that should negate any other time the situation comes about where you can have somebody kind of ready to go and maybe starting following year. Like all of a sudden it's just not going to work because it didn't work with Joe Tryanchenko. Right. Ezeiruaku's a different player, his own edge rusher. And I know there were some comparisons to JTS and JPP, but it almost feels like carbon copies with Ezeiruaku and Hassan Reddick. So
for sure.
He's 813. Thanks for the $5 super chat. Says, what are the chances we see Shaq Barrett back in pewter and red? Well, maybe the Ring of Honor one day, or Bucs Hall of Fame or something like that. Unless the Bucs just don't draft an edge rusher in this year's draft, maybe I can see Shaq Barrett back. And I want him to, get signed somewhere. I hope he does. I hope he continues to keep playing like he said that he wants to. I just don't really see how he fits with this team if they do draft anyone in this draft. It could be a 7th round pick because you also have to factor in Marquise Watson and Jose Ramirez. I don't know if you need Shaq in the mix if you draft someone this year and then you have the other two that are fighting to make this squad and will probably be on the practice squad. I just don't really see how he fits into this team.
No, I agree. And I don't think he's going to get signed anywhere until after the draft, until a team either gets their edge rusher and says no thanks, or they didn't, and it says, okay, now we'll consider Shaq and we'll bring you to camp and see what you have. So I totally agree, Matt. I think you're right. The Buccaneers would be interested if they don't land an edge rusher, and sometimes that's the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you have a guy in every round that you like, and he doesn't get to you when you're on the clock, right? And that position kind of falls through the cracks. So they don't need an edge rusher because of Hassan Reddick, but I think they want one. And I think they draft one, and probably Shaq isn't back, but we'll see.
Yeah, you never know. But I think for other teams too, it's worth taking a shot on Shaq Barrett if it's a situation where one of their main edge rushers is injured or whatever the case may be. But hopefully Shaq does keep playing. Tyler Lavelle, thank you for the $5 super chat. How can I convince you on Landon Jackson? Sharpened by Will Campbell, great on the hoop drill, long arms for batted balls, absolute sleeper in my opinion.
Oh, I mean, he only had 1 year at LSU. I mean, so,
Yeah.
the last 3 years were at Arkansas. Did he play against Will Campbell? Probably, right, in the SEC. But, um, yeah, the production is there. It's 6.5 sacks the last 2 years. I just kind of think it kind of reminds me a little bit of like a poor man's Chase Young. He's above average. He's good. I just don't know that he's an elite type player. I don't think he's a first round caliber player. Maybe the second round. I would take a chance on him maybe in the third round. But I just don't see it. He didn't stand up to me at the Senior Bowl, and the Buccaneers didn't even have a formal or informal interview with them. Haven't brought him in for a 30 visit. So unless something changes, unless they bring him in for a 30 visit, I don't know that he's on the radar.
Yeah, that sometimes is a sign of a team not really being into a player. A tall Florida guy. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Do you guys see the Bucs trading up a few spots for Campbell or Walker? Maybe trading up with the Colts. The Colts are at 14.
14,
The Bucs will be moving
14.
up 5 spots.
I don't know. I mean, if they're going to trade up, I would say this. I think they would trade up for Campbell just because he is that solo linebacker that has a first round grade. At least that's my opinion. I don't know how the Bucs feel about Jihad Campbell. Aren't they looking at him as a second round pick or a top 10 pick? I just don't know. But I would say they would maybe trade up for Campbell over Walker if you had to say who would they trade up for. But I just don't think Jason Light is going to trade up this year. I think that if he's going to trade, it's going to be a trade back. But we'll see. One guy that we're going to keep an eye on, and this is the other guy, Savon Revel Jr. Revel's a good player, and he might end up going late first round. There's no doubt about it. Let's talk about him for a quick second here because he's our fifth guy that we feel the Bucs have been targeting, will be targeting some point in this draft. I think they'd love to get him in the second round, but you know what? He might be a surprise first round pick because we don't know what grade they have on him. And like we saw last year, heavy first round grade along with positional need, and you get Graham Barton, right, at number 26. So Savon Revel, there's a lot to like. The ball skills are there, 3 interceptions and just a little bit of a smaller sample size. He played all of the 2023 season, had a pick there, had 2 interceptions in 3 games, started the 2024 season, including a pick 6 against Appalachian State. Long, tall corner, fast, great instincts, awareness, tough tackler. The Michigan film from 2023 is just spectacular. I mean, he's it. Coming off the ACL injury probably is what's costing him some draft status a little bit. But if you were to tell me that Savon Revel is going to be a late first round pick, I'm not going to disagree with you. And I think he's a sleeper for the Buccaneers at 19, just because there's not a lot of tall starting caliber corners in this year's draft. There's a couple guys, right? There's Trey Amos from Ole Miss. There's Darian Porter from Iowa State. Will Johnson from Michigan might slide to number 19. I doubt it. I don't know if he gets past New Orleans. They could use a cornerback there in the worst way, losing Marshawn Lattimore or trading away Lattimore and losing Paulson Adebo. But there's a lot to like about Savon Revel, Matt.
There absolutely is. I could see a situation if he somehow falls to the second round that that's when the Bucs would trade up. So maybe get him early in the second compared to the first. But teams do like to trade at the end of the first round as well, so you can tack on that 5th year option that you can in the first that you can't with the with the second round and on. But a great leader as well. I keep going back to the word anticipate and reading plays and being aggressive and attacking either the ball carrier or attacking a route that someone's going to be. And I see that with Revel as well. Just all of the makings of a true cover corner that you put him on one guy and you essentially take that receiver out for a majority of the game. And playing with better talent in the NFL, I think will only help him too. I mean, certainly it's a difficult position when you first get into the NFL playing corner, but I mean, he's an exciting dude when he's healthy and he can really shut down some of the best of the best. So, I'd be a big fan if he was on the Bucs.
Yeah, me too. Definitely a good player. And if you're looking for some financial help, the place to go, of course, is Immuni Financial. And you know that they're the place to go for advisory services, brokerage services, legacy, retirement planning, investment banking, insurance services, annuities, all of that over there at our friends at Immuni Financial. Make sure you visit them on the web at immuni.com. I will say this, though. They do from time to time, they have free webinars, and they have one coming up this week. It's actually going to be on the 11th, and which is Friday. So make sure that you tune in. It's free. All you have to do is go to immuni.com/event, EVENT. So that's immuni.com/event. This is a free webinar. All you have to do is just log on and at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and they're going to have their financial experts do a free webinar about all of the recent market activity and the rising concerns around the global tariffs. So this is a free service. You do not have to be an Immuni Financial customer or client to attend. All you have to do is log on to immuni.com/event. You can ask the Immuni Financial team questions about what's going to be happening with the market and how their long-term strategy is positioned to weather the uncertainty about these tariffs and how it's affecting global trade and the stock market. So it's a session that includes a live Q&A, offering you the opportunity to ask specific questions and gain further insights. It's part of what makes Immuni Financial special. Don't even have to be an Immuni client. Just log on to immuni.com/event at 10 p.m. a.m. Eastern time on the 11th. That is this week. And we appreciate our friends at Immuni Financial for helping not just their own clients, but everybody with some great financial advice.
That is right. Please check them out. Help out our sponsors as well. Just a reminder for everybody, some more shows coming up tomorrow. We're going to talk about some first-round shockers that if the Bucs went with them in the first round, we'd be a little surprised. Wednesday, very important show. Michael Pratt, the Bucs backup quarterback, who will be in a QB competition this year, joins the show, speaking with us. And then, of course, we have a press conference with Jason Light at the Bucs facility on Thursday, and we'll react to his press conference after, see what he had to say, maybe if he gave away any hints or stuff like that. And then Friday for our Pewter Report Platinum and Premier members, our Pewter Insider is Bucs targeting inside linebacker. So we'll talk a little bit more about that position. And, of course, answer questions and comments from you, our Pewter Platinum and Premier members. Also, thank you to Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo 813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Zach Jarvis, Kevin Thomas, and Mario Thomas. Thank you all so much for being Pewter Report Platinum members. So we appreciate all that support.
Yep. And also, too, we will have our Pewter Report live draft show April 24th and through the 26th. That's streamed on YouTube, Facebook, and X a couple weeks from now. But make sure that you put that in your planners to join us live. It's always going to be a fun show. We'll be live from the team facility, and we'll have the Pewter Report staff on hand, as well as getting live reaction to the press conferences from Jason Light, Todd Bowles, etc. And that should be a good time with lots of great content as well. And Matt, we've got plenty of content over at pewterreport.com.
That's right. So if you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video below. Thanks again to everybody for 18,000 subscribers. We really, really appreciate it. Could not do it without you. So thank you for that. For us hitting that milestone. We really appreciate it. So that'll do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.